Since 1961, Quartz Plumbing has offered friendly, reliable service to residences all over Bergen County, New Jersey. We are a fourth-generation family-owned business, unmatched in customer satisfaction and professionalism while working in your home. We are the hydronic heating and water filtration specialists, with a workmanship guarantee to put you at ease so you can rest comfortably. We offer financing for those big projects that catch you off guard, and we have a network of excellent contractors in all fields for any project you wish to tackle. Call our responsive office team, and we'll dispatch a handsome and educated technician to lay the smackdown on all your plumbing issues. You can also find us at quartzplumbing.com, search us on Google, or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Like, subscribe, and share, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Plum Bums Podcast, the blue-collar tradesman show where we talk about small business and entrepreneurship in this crazy modern era. As with me always is Maximilian, my trusty sidekick. We need an entry line for you. I think I signed you that in like a while ago.
Me anything.
And you still haven't done it.
No, what do I don't need an entry line for. We just get to the point.
It's kind of like when I ask you to clean your truck. You like how my truck's been clean for a week straight, so now I'm just bullying you.
It's a week
yours.
that your truck's been clean, and he's bothering me about it.
Listen, we try to stay clean, but when it gets busy, that's the last thing you want to do is clean your truck at work. But it's a good discipline, and we talk too. So we're trying to switch. Oh, our guest, you got it? Okay.
No problem.
I saw that on the corner of my eye. So we're trying to switch suppliers or figure out an alternative to get just to get stuff delivered, and then we can use our normal supplier for like picking up. And the guy goes, Paul's like, hey, I'm interested in getting my guys set up. He's like, the first thing he's like, how clean are their trucks? How clean is your shop? Because I can't do anything for you unless your shop and your trucks are clean.
Yeah, if we want to go that route, our trucks have to be pristine and on point with like knowing every single thing that we have in the truck.
I think, listen, a couple of weeks ago we had a meeting to talk about that because the summer was just, or the fall was just its leftover trash.
Yeah.
And now it's got to be done. Listen, that's one of the keys to success is cleanliness. One of the ABCs of success. I don't know what they really are. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Today we have a longtime family friend of mine who I worked for. Let's see, I screwed up my college career in a year and a half, and I came home, and I started working for this guy. My mom was working for him as a secretary, but that was like 20 years ago. And today with us is Pete. Say your last name for me.
Well, everybody calls me Pete the Greek because it's a lot easier.
Pete the Greek?
Pete Georgoutsos.
Pete Georgoutsos, that's right.
I promise you, it's easier in Greek.
I called my mom before you came on. I was like, say his last name one more time because we just call everyone. We call you Pete Van Gogh.
That's good. I love that.
That's how you're in my phone.
I love being identified with my business.
No, Pete is a contractor in Bergen County, further than Bergen County, right? You go out of Bergen County.
Absolutely. I would say, a third of the state, pretty much.
Listen,
60, 80-mile radius.
We've had a couple contractors on here, but you have been featured in magazines for like exquisite work. Old homes, old home restoration. I mean, I remember going to your office where my mom worked there, and the pictures from the magazine were on the wall and work. You guys, you are by far one of the most impressive. What your guys do, what they get done, is amazing.
Well, I
it's
appreciate
beautiful.
that. Thank you. I'm nothing without my guys, and I mean that sincerely. I have a great group of gentlemen that are, my ageless crew, as I refer to them.
Absolutely.
The oldest guy's in his mid-70s. Most of the guys are in their 60s. I've had guys with me over 30 years, other guys over 25 years. So it's a testament to, what a tight organization we have and how talented my guys are. We just basically, I started the business when I was young. I was in my,
How young?
I was 24 years old. I just finished college, and I was attending graduate school. And, you know, I always worked in construction. Originally I worked for a painting contractor. They never had enough work, so he would give me to one of his friends who was a carpenter.
Right.
So I did that for the most part through high school and all of college. And then when I got out of college, it was in the late 80s. So the job market was very soft because we had a stock market crash in 87. So I said, okay, well, maybe it's not the best time right now, so I need further education, so I should go to grad school. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a business and just see how it does.
You spent all that money on education and then didn't
I know,
even use it.
that's a paradox, you know? And
well, luckily it was in the 80s when it was not what it is now, like 50 grand a year.
Oh, yeah. It's, you want to laugh. You know, I've had these conversations with a lot of parents, you know, and their children. I had a scholarship to go to school, but even without a scholarship, I could have made enough money in the summer to literally work my way through college and pay for it, no problem.
Yep.
Nobody's going to make $60,000, $80,000 in a summer at the age of 19.
Right.
Nope.
You know, or 18.
Who were you working for back then?
Well, I worked for a great guy. The name of his company was A Square Painting Company. His name was George, and there was a lot of fellow Greeks that, you know, worked, you know, in the trades those days. And
You just got to keep it in the family. Keep
absolutely.
it in the family for the last
They
40
really
years.
got that tight community.
And then, you know, he hooked me up with a whole bunch of his friends that, you know, needed basically a laborer.
Yeah.
That's where you got to start at the bottom. That's the best part about construction. It's
Right.
like, what are you going to do? It's like, no, you're going to start at the bottom. You're going to clean the truck. You're going to wash the floor. You're going to clean the shop.
Pull debris.
But it's not just with construction though. It's with every job. Which let's say, because we are more blue collar trade oriented on this show, but in any job, I think that's what younger people don't understand either. Is that wherever you go, you're bottom of the totem pole.
You
You
gotta
don't
pay
get
your
to.
dues.
You have to pay your dues for a few years.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that it's gonna suck for. You have to at least 5 years. You know?
Absolutely. You got
It's
to
gonna
pay
suck.
your dues. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, everything that I learned in my life. I mean, it sounds corny, but pretty much, you know, I started working very young in the construction industry, but I was also a wrestler, and you got to take your lumps or your beatings before you're going to
Right.
become, you know,
Yep.
decent
Any
at what
better,
you do,
yeah.
any better. So the same thing with work. But I tell you, you know, the old adage, cleanliness is next to godliness. That's true. But if you're not highly organized when you're running a business, that business is running you. There's no way you'll ever get a, you know, there's so much debris in construction, literally from tools, equipment,
Right.
garbage, that if you're not highly organized, you're going to lose so much money per hour and it depends how many employees you have, that you'll be buried. And so it's like you have to constantly, you know, be on top of your game. Just you know, leaving the shop.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So I mean,
There's no way around it.
no, and
I
you
mean,
guys
yeah.
do it. I mean, you got a gazillion parts. I mean,
Yeah.
between all the washers
Listen,
and screws and traps and
Yeah.
you know.
Even though he said like we're not there yet where we're perfectly organized, I still show up to people's houses and certain jobs, and like we do get compliments on the truck. Wow, it's really organized. It looks really good. And there are other days where I'm like, I hope that the customer doesn't see when I open this truck door, because
He broke away from courts for a little bit.
oh,
And
It was-
he worked for another plumber for a couple weeks.
Oh, defector, huh?
it
Well,
was
He opens
That's
up.
his
He tells me
fault.
he opens up the truck, and he was telling me about it. He's like there had to be
I'm
eight
not ex-
grand
yeah.
in traps alone,
and P
just
traps,
buried.
plastic P traps.
It was like
That's
an episode of
unbelievable.
Hoarders at the
It
back
was
of like an
insane.
That's hysterical.
E300 van.
He had an E300, like an E350 or something like that. That the kid just got fired and left the van the way he left it. And I come in the first day, and he opens the back of the truck, the new boss, and I said, "Listen, I can't work out of this. I need the day, and I will clean this truck spotless, but I need this day."
It's up to the boss to make sure that happens.
It
if
was
it's
so
not,
bad.
you
I
know?
just had to take everything like with like hands like this and just scoop it out onto the ground
And start over.
and start over. But I'm not exaggerating. I called him
No,
and I said,
I've seen bad job sites. I've seen, you know, disorganized contractors. But that's also a testament. If you know, a lot of, I mean, short term, you might get sloppy because you're in the middle of like, you know, several jobs or several big jobs. You
Right.
just had deliveries. Guys had their tools out. Okay. But overall, within a day or two, you got to be organized, because what's going to happen is your job site's going to start looking like that. Your work's eventually going to start looking like that.
Yep.
And it just, it spills over.
You
know?
lose so much in material.
Oh, absolutely.
So I cleaned out I was just doing the top shelf because you've seen the back of Paul's Plumbing. It's been the same truck for years. First of all, the shelving is beautiful. Like that box truck, I love. It's falling apart, but I don't want to stop driving it because like working on that thing is great.
Hey, it's like an old horse.
But like even cleaning off, I haven't touched the top shelf in a while. I cleaned that out. I found like an old vent damper hood motor. I'm like, oh, what the heck? Just leave it there. And 2 weeks later, I ended up using it on a job. If I hadn't cleaned the top shelf,
You would have never
I would have
known
to
it was
go
there.
buy that part.
Yeah.
It's like $180 part. You know,
Well-
so it saves you money.
I want to
know?
ask you, because you said that most of your guys are a little bit older. What's the age of your youngest employee around?
I would say 25, 26.
Okay. So you do have younger guys.
We like to have a couple of younger guys. I just hired my nephew last year, which is great because, he's a really super talented carpenter, and he's got a big future in construction.
Nice.
And, he's a rarity, obviously, because most people his age, nobody really wants to do the trades. And I know I followed one of your shows where you guys were talking about, the benefit of being in the trades. And it's a seriously great business, to get involved in. And the earlier you do, the better off, because you need tremendous knowledge to be able to do this. That's one thing, people downplay you or they don't understand. It's like, what's a carpenter? A carpenter's a guy that's got like 20 years experience. What's a plumber? Yeah, you could, you could set a toilet, you could do a few things, but how about going inside like the old days and actually being a real mechanic and taking apart a boiler and making sure every single piece goes back the way it's supposed to, or either having to find parts or possibly fabricate your own parts,
Right.
Yep.
which all these old timers did. So, you're dealing with people that are very mechanically inclined, and they're just a special type of breed that likes to do this kind of work. So if you have a lot of energy, I recommend it to anybody, and it could be actually extremely profitable. But you also make money because you're always working a lot.
Right.
You're working 80 hours a week. It's not like, you get this 9-to-5 job.
Right.
That's half a day.
Yep.
And you can make your own work. You work for a company, and then on the side, on the weekends, you're starting to learn a talent and a skill where you can utilize and make money on your own, which kind of sparks. That's why most blue-collar guys end up going to business for themselves, because it sparks that entrepreneurial desire that's in most men, I would say. Of
course.
To not have to answer to anybody, do your own thing, make your own hours. And listen, it's not easy, because when you're working, I mean, you see how stressed we get on the field.
Of course.
80,
We're different
90 hours
people.
a week.
We're
Right.
different people when we work. You know.
But it still beats having to punch a clock, and to me,
There's a lot of benefits. I used to tell young guys, I go, listen, don't look at the income, look at the outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm teaching you a trade. Let's say, you pay a guy, make it up. You're paying him $800 a week, whatever it is. $600 a week, because maybe he wasn't that good. He's just like base pay. But I could teach you things that you go on a Saturday and make $600 just for the day. And they would just look at me when they started. I said, I'm not kidding you.
Yep.
yeah.
And I had this one guy, he was great. He, the thing with me is I coached wrestling at Montclair State for 15 years. So a lot of guys used to work for me in the summers, because wrestling season was during the fall and the winter. So a lot of guys, they needed summer jobs, all these college guys. So they started working for me. So I have a lot of experience with like younger guys, for many, many years. Like I said, I coached there 15 years. So I had a lot of guys give me a lot of compliments that weren't even wrestlers, because I would see a guy and I'd be like, you know what? They're struggling. They're working for me for like a year. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is not for you, but I'll tell you something. You're a really smart guy. Why don't you go back to school and, see if you could get some type of electrical licensing? And I actually did it with two guys. And I think one guy became an electrical engineer. And the other guy is working for an electrician. And he's totally at the top of his game. He's basically like his own. He's got a business within a business now, because
Good.
I see the talent. Like, I'll never steer anybody wrong. I want people that are happy working for me. You know what I mean? Whatever the next level is, and if it's not going to be in construction, namely like carpentry or laboring, putting up scaffolding, whatever, all the multitude of different things, because we're multifaceted and we cross trade a lot. at Van Gogh, more than most companies,
Right.
you know.
Well, you
So-
have to. I mean, you've done a lot of antique homes, old homes, restorations, stuff like that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you say that's your specialty?
That's my specialty because I was blessed and fortunate enough to start working basically on the East Hill of Englewood and Tenafly, where there were
Yeah.
a multitude of old houses.
I know.
So I got into doing historic restorations, vintage home, whatever you want to call them, including, we've done a lot of houses that are National Historic
Sites, yeah.
and as well as some national landmarks, which is extremely awesome.
Yeah.
But we started at the beginning small, and then I wound up meeting Dave Marino, who you've met before. The guy's brilliant. I mean, he's got a master's degree in architecture from Columbia, and he could basically make a radio out of a 2x4. He's that good.
I know, yeah. And he'll tell you about it the whole time on the job site.
Yeah. He's hysterical.
He'll tell you every step. We'll talk about it.
He's hysterical. He's an
I've worked
interesting
with
guy.
Dave a lot.
He's a great guy.
He's
very
been on-
knowledgeable. But the thing with contracting, it's a very complicated field, and what a lot of the public doesn't understand is who are you guys and how are you different than somebody else? What sets you apart? Because everybody thinks that everybody's had the same training.
Yeah.
And basically, whoever mentors you and the skill sets that you learn and the crew that you develop, it's like having a professional football team or a top-notch NCAA, team that's competing in any sport. It's like what makes those guys special and sets them apart. It's their training, it's their camaraderie. Team building and having a successful team is not necessarily prevalent throughout the industry as a
Right.
whole.
Yeah.
And people just look at price,
Yeah.
which is a very bad thing to do in construction or in plumbing,
It is.
because it could cost you a fortune.
In
Not
anything.
double or triple, it could cost
Yeah.
you a fortune.
Yeah, it could. And there's nothing that the new guy that's coming in that has to fix it can do about it. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
absolutely.
when if someone contracts, we've worked together on plenty of jobs. Someone's going to contract you or not, but you have to. First of all, your portfolio is impressive. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
There's a lot of guys that don't even have that. They don't even work on that. Even a portfolio on Instagram. There's contractors that whatever, handymen and stuff like that. You got to prove your worth. You know what I mean? That's why we try to pump out a lot of videos about jobs that we're on and stuff. We do 1-minute reels. This is the boiler we put in, yada, yada. That's important for people to see.
Continuity is
Yeah.
important, and also that you're the real guys. Because when I grew up, I used to actually knock on people's doors. I made my own portfolio, just pictures,
Door to door.
door to door, like a door to door used vacuum salesman. I would just knock on people. Like some people would slam the door, and some people are like, "Wow, you're really cool, kid."
Yeah.
It's like you're looking
What, do you
for a
need,
job.
like,
It's
some-
like, yeah, what do you need? That's how I met Dave. I met Dave on a job and befriended him only for like 2 days. And then I went and knocked on his house. And I knock on a guy's house. How did I know that we'd be working together for 35 years?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is like
Wow.
1 in a million, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
But, back then it was just pretty much, and it still is for me. I've never been an online presence or anything like that because I like, first of all, when I was, got in the business, computers weren't as prevalent.
of
Especially
course.
there were no iPhones and there was none of that stuff. But I think the buyer, like the old Latin saying, caveat emptor, buyer beware. They have to be very, very careful who they hire because, you can fake anything
Yeah.
online. I mean, not you guys because you're doing it on a daily basis and people are watching you, but you could say you did this house and that house and then go out and pay $100 for a license because a lot of the public doesn't understand. A general contractor is basically the ringleader of all the trades. So they're like, well, he's the boss. Everybody knows him. But what they don't understand is anybody, and I do mean anybody, can be a general contractor. All you got to do is basically pay a registration fee for like $150. You go out
We know those guys.
and you get and you go out and you basically get insurance, $2,000-$3,000. You could buy a truck or don't buy a truck, whatever you want to do. Just
Yeah.
put a magnetic sign in your car and you're a contractor.
Yeah, exactly.
And if that is who people hire.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how are you going to separate that guy who's probably like the worst of the worst with like somebody who's really competent is a scary process for most people. It's a completely unregulated industry.
Yeah.
I see. We have here horror stories all the time.
Of
We
course.
did remember that kitchen just like a month ago. We did this kitchen. She had a
Yeah.
contractor come in. They botched everything and used their own plumber.
Yeah.
Well, plumber. You know, some
Probably not
guy.
even licensed.
Yeah, he's not even licensed. Came in, mangled everything. They did everything from like just, and it's not a huge kitchen. It's just nice countertop, cabinets,
Well,
refrigerator.
yeah.
Nice, simple
We talk
job.
about it all the time, though. It's like people can throw pecs through Joyce. Anybody can throw pecs through Joyce. Anybody now, you can, we have Pro Press. When people see me use the Pro Press, they're like, "Oh, really? You guys don't even solder anymore?" I'm like,
you can get press fit PVC
you can
now.
you can get shark bite fittings, and it's like, yeah, but there's a certain, and I might be taking this too far, but there's like an art to the way we do it, and there's the right way to do it, and then there's the wrong way to do it. Like you can just throw pecs and loop it through Joyce, but a lot of people don't know you have to strap it every 2 feet. Otherwise, you're getting shaking throughout the house, and then
Yeah.
people call you complaining. Oh, well, every time I open up a sink, my house shakes. Stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
People will put in PEX on the hot side, and then when you turn on the hot water, the PEX will melt or like sink down,
And it'll
and
droop,
then
yeah.
rub
I've seen
against
that
the
before.
sheetrock. And then you turn the shower off, and it rattles.
Yep.
And then it'll cool down and like this. The tricks of the trade that if you're gonna pay really really cheap, you're gonna get the guy that doesn't know any.
Yeah.
And when you pay, the more experience you get and the better you get, you charge more money because you're worth more.
Oh.
And it's almost like this should be common sense to everyone, but you have to sell this to most
You have to
customers.
sell it to most customers, but the best expression or line I ever heard is price is only an issue in the absence of value. And,
Yeah, there you go.
you know,
Proverbs.
yeah, it's a proverb. It's exactly is. It's the Confucian contractor way. But, what I used to tell customers, some people are like, "Oh, I'd like to use you." And, the funny thing is sometimes we're the least expensive, sometimes we're in the middle, and sometimes
Yeah.
we're the most. Depends
Yeah.
who's bidding against you. So, and we're affordable, obviously, because we've been in business for 35 years.
Yeah.
So,
So,
a lot of people
you know your price.
yeah, you know the prices that you're supposed to be charging, and hopefully everybody's on board. But I always tell customers, I used to tell them, forget about the price. You got to go with who do you think is going to do the best job, and who do you trust with your money.
Yeah.
Case closed.
You sell
Because
yourself.
You sell yourself, but it's also not a lot of money. Meaning, let's say you're $30,000 off. $30,000 off in what? In a $400,000 or $600,000 job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
not much.
It's not a lot of money. And what's going to happen if that job's wrong? That you're going to be living in there with your family. The average person stays in their house 7 to 9 years.
Yeah.
You could eat a massive
I didn't know that,
mistake.
but yeah.
Because the turnover is pretty big on most homes.
There's people that a lot of times they sue a contractor for crappy work and they lose because the contractor still went in there and did work. So they think, well, I'm just going to sue you because you didn't do what you said you were going to do, but they get screwed in court. So really, if you're not starting it off right by getting the right contract at the beginning, there's no recourse for you. You have to eat that.
Yeah, there's
You
no
know?
reason to go to wind up in court, and the expectations have to be met. The public doesn't understand that there's obviously building codes and there's inspections, and you have to pass those inspections. Now, and you have to abide by something that's called professional standards, okay, or common standards that people abide by, So everything like, spackling's got to be smooth, sanded, finished, this, that, the other thing. So you want to go to the level where you're performing high quality work, you're abiding to the standards of the industry, to all the BOCO codes, and then, you pass your inspections. But then somebody can come back and say to you, oh, this spot's no good. That okay, there's a certain amount of work that you're going to say, okay, you got to make the customer happy. But some people are very unrealistic. And, they want to keep you there forever. And they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you're also running a business. You're trying to be meticulous and do a great job. But nobody can sit there and say, well, this is not smooth enough. This miter isn't perfect enough.
Right.
Because once you exceed logic, then you're going into the world of basically obsession, where somebody could be obsessed about their issues at their home. But on the flip side, it's like they could say, oh, I'm going to do this and that. And it's like, listen, I already passed inspections.
Yeah.
I'm already done with your project. I sent my guys down, back to you 15 times, and you will do that for people
Yeah.
because you like
Yeah.
them and you want to get a good referral.
Yeah.
But the expectation between a customer and a homeowner has to also be a very realistic thing.
Yeah.
And you got to have that separation between what segment I satisfied and what was done and what was passed. A lot of the other stuff is like opinion based
Yeah.
scenario, which is not.
Yeah, there's a gray area there.
There's a big gray area. Like if
Yeah.
all your plumbing works and it was installed professionally, it looks great.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and go back and say, well, I don't know if this is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right pitch, even though it's quarter inch, break
Right.
out the bubble. I mean, come on. You're doing this for a living every day.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
insulting your intelligence. But sometimes customers are correct too.
Putting post-it notes
People
where they
make
want.
but people make mistakes.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't see stuff. Our guys, may have done something. The guy
You
didn't have
go
his
into it
glasses
quickly,
on.
yeah.
Of course, if you're going to be a good contractor, you also can't be unable to receive any criticism or
Of
actually
course.
look at your job from a outside perspective. Be like, you know what, you're right.
We talk about
could-
it in the truck all the time.
Customers, I wouldn't say always right, but customers are mostly right.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
take their side.
Yeah.
99% of
Yeah.
the time because you have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
We get back in the truck sometimes and we'll say, we'll go back to a job that maybe somebody complained about a certain thing and we get back in the truck and talk about it and we kind of agree, yeah, they were right,
If you don't hear
don't-
complaints, you're not in business.
Exactly.
Right.
You're not dealing with the public. You know
Right.
what I mean? There's going to be issues. I don't care if you're eating a cheeseburger and it's not cooked the right way, or
Exactly.
you're putting in a driveway or whatever
It's
you're
like
doing.
on what is
Yeah.
it, Kitchen Nightmares that we watch all the time, where the homeowners or the restaurant owners always go, I never hear any complaints about my food, and he
Yeah.
goes, well, your restaurant's doing terrible. If you're not getting any
Exactly.
complaints,
Exactly.
it's because you're
Or
not
you
in
try
business, like what
different
you said.
things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, because you said you started this business at 24, 25,
I was 24.
and you started this business. Did you go into it with a plan, or did you just kind of wing it and hope for the best?
It was funny. I had to come up with a name, and I was like, I got to get a van. So it's like, I have a van. I just said it as a joke. I said, Van Gogh. And Van Gogh had just sold, I think it was the Sunflowers painting for like $50 million, which was huge news at the time because it was, the late 80s.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just did it because it was catchy, but it's also got this like hyperkinetic energy associated with like a moving van. And the funny part is, I never had letters on the trucks while I was in grad school because I just, I was a
Like a
busy
handyman?
kid.
Oh, you-
I just
okay, you
was
didn't even
not
bother.
there yet. I didn't
Yeah.
even bother. When I graduated, I said to myself, okay, what am I going to do? Because I wound up getting a securities license. I was selling insurance products. I got a master's degree in economics, which is completely the antithesis of what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I actually enjoyed it. And at one point, I
You
was
got a
actually-
master's in
Yep.
economics?
At one point, I was actually thinking about getting my PhD because
Get
I was
outta
so
here.
into it. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a good conversation piece for a party.
It is.
But reality is, you also got to make a living.
Well, yeah.
There's a big difference, a big disconnect between
Yeah.
working, making money, and your education. So I encourage everybody to get educated. I don't care if you study history, if you study the arts, or if you whether it's a liberal arts degree or if it's something else, that's okay. You need to be educated to deal with the public
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go to school thinking they're going to make money
Right.
for whatever reason. And so there's a lot of executive Wall Street guys that never, they were liberal arts majors. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They never studied business.
Yeah. Well, the crisscrossing of fields nowadays is it's crazy because it used to be that you would go to school and that was the field that you ended up with. You ended up in that field, but nowadays you hear all these stories about people who go to university for a certain thing and they end up in something completely different. You had, a master's degree in economics and you're building houses and
Yeah.
and things like that. It's people also don't sit in their fields that long anymore. Like I know people that 10 years go by, they're in a field, they're pretty comfortable in it. And once they get too comfortable, they decide, okay, I need to do something else.
Right.
I'm going to
Yeah, it's-
switch a field.
Well, that's the youth today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they like to jump around a lot. I mean, contracting was in my blood. So I like to learn about business. I really am very passionate about history, and economics is obviously very closely related to history because a lot of these historical outcomes, everything is all based on the business psyche, the business environment that exists at the time. unfortunately may start wars. Politics are involved. So all these study of social sciences, they're basically a study of human behavior
Yeah.
and behavioral patterns.
Right.
But for me, being in the construction business, basically since I was like 13, 14 years old, I had a passion for it. So I loved it. So it was an easy fit.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I wish I could say the same thing, because we got sucked into plumbing all growing up and everything.
Of course. Well, that was your grandfather that started the business.
I used to always say, I'll never do this job. I'm never going to do this.
But you didn't know enough about it as a kid. You could be critical. But
Now that I know more, I want to do it less.
do you really?
No, I'm
That's
just
funny.
kidding. No, I love having the business that you get to wear your name on your shirt that you've built.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm third generation. It's not like I started it, but it's not like you pick up something and like it just carries itself. You got to bust your ass to keep that going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
You want to ask something?
no, I was just going to talk about
No, I want to
myself.
ask. I ask everybody this. I ask everybody who owns a business, and especially older guys, but not to be offensive, but like,
Not at all.
what do you recommend to younger guys? Because you've talked about how it's harder for you to get younger guys. I know you did get your nephew, but what do you recommend to younger guys? Any advice to get them into this trade, or you just more so kind of do what you like?
I like to use wrestling as an example for a lot of things in my life. Wrestling is you either love it or you don't. So it's very hard to get people or young people to be involved in a home improvement business because they have to have a passion for it. They have
Right.
to enjoy either repairing things, fixing mechanical things that work. Then it's like, oh, it sounds like a challenge, to like the average guy, who would think, but a guy that's like a real problem solver, or a guy that could, do a Rubik's Cube really fast, believe it or not, he may wind up becoming a contractor or a plumber
Yeah.
because he enjoys being able to complete these like difficult tasks that nobody else can. So we all have this like internal challenge within us that we always strive to be better. And I think a lot of guys that are in contracting business just take up that challenge.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I could do it. I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. I'll be back. I'll have it done. And most people don't want to take that initiative and don't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like, you're working on some big, commercial building. I mean, you could flood that thing out. You'd be out a few $1 million.
I know.
You'll max out your policy.
I know.
And it's like, you're not sleeping at night. You're like, did we tighten that fitting, or did we forget something?
Absolutely. I've woken up like that.
Oh, all the time.
I've texted Nancy at like 1:30 in the morning, like just in a panic, woken up. I dream like most of my dreams. What was the most? I had to.
I texted him the other day because there was one customer that we had an issue with where we had to go back a couple times. And I texted you the other day and I was like, as a joke, I said, this person's leaking again. And he was like, it was like 9, 10 o'clock at night and he was already like settled. And,
And all
and
of a sudden we had to go. Yeah, I had an issue for some stupid job 4 times in a row.
and I sent him that
And
message.
he goes, that dude is still leaking. And like, I knew, like, it took me a second to
Started
realize he
sweating.
was busting, but like, your heart just starts going like, ugh. You put in a big boiler and you're hoping that it doesn't, that every joint is sweated together nicely. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's not for everyone. But here's
No.
the thing, the guys that are working for you, they don't necessarily have that. It's you that has that.
Well,
Unless they're really good and involved.
my guys are really conscientious. They're great guys. Obviously the boss is going to be more because you have more to lose.
Exactly.
You have your reputation, you have your liability. It's going to cost you money. But my guys are, listen, nobody's perfect, but they're really good, competent people. And, I'm very blessed to have them because like I said, without them, I'm nothing. I'm just a guy that's finding work. I could do some of the work, etc. But like, how much work can a guy do? You need
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
And you need good people.
What he said.
Is there also? I have another question because I notice it more in our field, in electrical cars, stuff like that. Is there a production issue in your field? Because when I think of a general contractor, I think of like general building material. I think of 2x4s, plywood. I think of concrete. I think of like the base of a home. Do you notice the quality of material dropping in your field?
The Those Home Depot 2x4s that just like twist.
Well, it's funny you say that. There's a lot of issues that are prevalent in the construction industry, but you as a professional, you have to know where to shop. Believe it or not, Home Depot 2x4s are great because they're indoors and they're not outside in the lumber yard, so they
fair
have less
enough. Okay.
less of a propensity of twisting
All right.
and having malformations and
All right, I take
but
it back.
no
I take it back,
but
Home
you
Depot.
can but Home Depot has some great products that you need, but you got to pick and choose your supply houses. But the answer to your question is, I purposely go out like a chef goes out and buys, like a quality chef will buy his produce and do all that. I actually go out and shop all the wood. Like, people think I'm joking. It's like I'll go to a supply house, I'm building a deck. I'll go hand pick a whole bunch. I mean, we'll have deliveries and we'll have to hand pick through it. But a lot of times, if I'm buying Ipe mahogany or whatnot, I'll go pick 100 pieces, 200 pieces of Ipe mahogany.
Yeah.
And have to sort through it, flip it, twist it, depending on what you're building with it. Some pieces have to be stick straight.
Yeah.
So I will hand select a lot of times, and cedar, the same thing. So it's like, if you want your job to come out right, you just, you know what I mean? You just don't
have to-
throw stuff up.
Exactly.
And a lot of it, I'll make up a number, 20% of your building materials might be defective.
Yeah.
And you got to sort through that.
Yeah.
It's tough. And they call it rough framing for a reason, because a lot of these guys, you get your framing deliveries, and when you put up the framing, and this is something that differentiates us, you put it up, and
It's a
some of
fun
these
house.
2x4s are twisted, then all your walls are never, this goes for anybody, they're never perfectly straight. But
Right.
what we do is, I would go by with Dave. We're done, let's say we're doing an addition. We'd break out an 8-foot level, and then we'd level off all the walls. Like, nobody's going to do that.
No.
Yeah.
They don't care.
You know how many
Because we don't
times
we don't want the sheetrock to be skipping.
Right. You know how many times we've laid baseboard, like an 8-foot length of baseboard along a wall, and it's
And you're
just
missing the studs.
gaps. Like,
You're missing the
absolutely.
studs, yeah.
Or lining up a vanity to the corner, and the corner's like 58 degrees wide. You know
I
what I mean?
just-
That's why I always said you get what you pay for.
Yeah. I
You
just
know?
recently went on my trip in Europe, and I walked into the to the room, and I said to my brother, I was like, "Is the bed crooked or is the room crooked?" And the whole wall was like
Splayed out.
this,
Yeah.
splayed out, and it made the bed and the whole room kind of look crooked, but it was the wall that was just like,
I said
worked.
it's because it's so old over there.
yeah, it's hard to do construction
I mean-
over there because like all their plumbing is in Rome.
It's got to be the same like in Greece.
It was in Rome that
Rome's a beautiful place.
it's gorgeous, but the plumbing is so old you can't. It's hard to update everything. Like everything is so small.
You got to
like the-
frequently pinch off when you take a dump.
Yeah. Like the drains, you can
Hopefully
see
the
the
water
shower
works.
drain. Yeah. But you can see like the shower drain is like a 1-inch drain,
course.
versus here it's like
course.
it's
1
too
inches,
old. It's too old to update
Yeah,
it. It's
what
so
are you gonna
expensive.
do? Like rehab the city?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
part of the
true.
allure
That's part of
of
the
Rome.
allure of
Yeah.
all the old European cities
Yeah.
everywhere. It doesn't matter if you go in Amsterdam or.
I mean,
you
it's
know.
got to be the same thing in Greece. I would assume Greece is the civilization's thousands of years old. There's
Yeah.
buildings that are still up there. How often do you go over there?
Probably 2 or 3 times a year. My mom's there, and I have a trim. Well, I grew up there as a kid.
Oh, you
came
did?
To the US.
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
Yeah, I came to the U.S. when I was in 2nd grade. We stayed here for a few years. Then I went back for 5th grade.
Oh wow.
So, I have classmates that I still keep in touch with. I have a lot of
Oh, get outta
relatives. I
here.
have
That's
32
cool.
first cousins. I
Where's
have
your
a huge
accent?
family. What was that?
Where's your accent?
Well, when you grow up here as a kid, you're not going
Yeah.
to have an accent.
32 first cousins.
I see. You know what? Someone told me, and I never thought about it like this. You don't get your accent from your parents. You get it from your friends growing up.
Yeah.
Your
I believe
classmates. It's such an
Yeah.
obvious concept, but I never thought of it like that. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? They're totally right.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick break in a minute, but I want to talk. You mentioned it before. Pizza, highly skilled wrestler. I've seen the trophies in your.
A long time ago.
Yeah, but that never leaves. I mean, you said you're pushing. How old are you? If you don't mind me?
58.
58. You're pushing 60. And you're still in great shape.
Thank you.
I mean,
Well,
we have a lot of 60-year-old customers and people that we know.
we carry a lot. We carry a lot of lumber. We put up scaffolding. We're workhorses.
Yeah, But I want to talk about. We'll get into a little bit of that, and I don't know, just BS a little bit, and we go from there.
Absolutely.
You got your buddy, one of your workers here that's been a long time wrestler. You said he was your coach back in the day.
Yeah, he was.
Louis?
Yeah, he was. He trained me. He's basically my private coach.
That's great.
And this is back in the early '80s, and then I wound up going to school in Clemson, and he was our assistant coach.
That's such a Greek thing, is wrestling.
Oh yeah,
It's
Came from the Greeks. That's
there's
why.
like
Yeah.
there's like 2 degrees
Exactly.
of separation with wrestling. It's not 6 degrees.
And Greeks.
Yeah,
Wrestling and Greeks.
True. Greeks get around.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thanks for listening, and we'll stick with us. Screw that up. We'll see you in a minute.
Call Quartz Plumbing and Heating for top-rated service in Bergen County, New Jersey. And don't forget to keep treats for Frankie on hand.
Van Gogh General Contracting, the art of renovation. For almost 40 years, Van Gogh has been the leader in historic and antique home renovation. There is only one way, the right way, to treat your home. And with decades of experience, Van Gogh will leave you breathless with their attention to detail on your home. Check us out online at vangoghgc.com. And for your next project, call Van Gogh. We truly are artists, completing quality work to be enjoyed for generations to come.
That's her. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Get out of speed.
Is it awesome or is it a little bit of a defective
Library
part?
Memorex.
All right, you ready?
This is good water.
All right, folks, welcome back to Plum Bums Podcast. The Everyman's Podcast is like how we start saying lately. You told me to say that, right?
Yeah, but I told you to get it like down. You have to write something down
Here,
for
you
yourself.
try the intro.
No, I can't. I'm
Come on.
shy.
Try it.
No.
Just
Welcome
try
to
it.
Plum Bums Podcast, the Everman's Podcast. We're here with Pete Van Gogh. It can't be Van Gogh, right? Because that's not his last name. But we call him Pete Van Gogh.
Womp womp.
Yeah. You and your uncle with that.
Pete Georgoutsos,
Pete Georgoutsos.
a longtime contractor friend of ours. You were at Paul's wedding, I remember.
Oh, absolutely. West
you,
Point.
You were dressed in that charcoal shiny suit. I with the cowboy boots.
I think that was a different era. That was that was the '60s.
Well, you didn't throw the suit out, I guess.
Yeah. I actually had gotten it on one of those
All right.
places.
Frankie's not comfortable at all. Want to go back down? Loser. There you go. No, we've been talking. We've been touching base on the world of contracting and historic restorations. And you're a Greek, 100% Greek guy. Lived in Greece, grew up in Greece. You said you moved here when in second grade.
Yep.
And then went back to fifth. And then how long were you there for that time?
For 1 year.
For a year, okay. And you still have friends and family out. I didn't know your mother was out there.
Yeah, my mom and dad. We grew up in Sparta, Greece.
Wow.
It's the joke. It's the place where the men are men, the women are men, and the sheep run scared.
I mean, the Greek history is that's where the greatness of humanity, I think, really emerged, and what gave us.
Oh, there's all cultures contributed,
I mean,
to our past cumulatively. But
Yeah, but
Greek
listen.
culture, they were the first to introduce the concepts of, I would say, democracy or a rule by the people in mass. But they didn't have representative democracy. They actually
Right.
would vote, and if you had more yays than nays, then
Yeah.
whatever law or whatever they were trying to accomplish would get passed through.
I mean, we base our legal system off Greece concepts and all that stuff.
Well, there's a lot. Greece. Well, and Rome afterwards, and then it was a very interesting history between Greece and Rome, because eventually what happened was Greece basically fell to the Roman Empire, but later the Romans actually became Greeks.
How so?
They took
It's a very interesting concept. Basically, there were two Romes that were created.
Give us the Cliff Notes version.
Well, the Cliff Notes is in around 300 A.D., King Constantine from Rome moved to Byzantium, and he established, because his name was King Constantine, he established the city of Constantinople.
Right.
So Rome had basically two capitals, Rome and Constantinople. So because Constantinople was Greek-speaking, and Greek was very prevalent even during Roman times, like all the intellectuals, they spoke Greek. Greeks were assimilated into Roman society as basically procurators, teachers, philosophers, mathematicians, or whatnot.
Yep.
And eventually what happened was the Romans actually became Greeks, because at the fall of the Byzantine Empire, which I believe was in 1453, they were all Greek-speaking.
Right.
Romans. They basically became Greeks. But there's a saying, the Italians say una faccia, una razza, and the Greeks say mia faccia, mia razza, which means one face, one race. And all this ethnic stuff that people like to relate themselves to, especially, every nationality. All these nationalities were basically born at the turn of the 19th century, a lot of them. I mean, Italy became a unified country in the 1860s. Garibaldi was their first president. And Greece gained its independence in the 1820s from the Turks. And, it's ironic, because like people are like, I'm Greek, I'm Italian, but there was no such thing, because in reality, they considered themselves from that part of the world, but they were all city-states.
Yeah.
They all hated each other. So
Yeah.
the Spartans and the Athenians hated each other, with the Thebans and the Mycenaeans, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. If
wow.
you were from Genoa,
History
or,
forgets, yeah.
if you were from, a different part of Italy, you would constantly be feuding, because you had all these basically royal families or quasi-fiefdoms that would constantly war
Yeah.
with each other.
How about
Yep.
that?
So that's how, but they would all identify themselves as, let's say, Italians or Romans or whatnot. And the same thing goes with the Greeks. And like the Greeks, they repelled the Persian invasion several times, and they would all band together. But in reality, the Olympic Games, what people don't realize is it was, it's a religious festival. And every 4 years, they would actually stop killing each other temporarily,
Just
so that
to
they
do
could
the-
have the Olympic Games.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally true.
Do they still do them naked over there?
Well, gymnastics actually means naked activity.
Does it?
Gymnos means naked, yeah.
So my brother was
So,
Listen,
so
you
all
give-
athletes used to train naked.
I'm going to give you any word, and I want you to tell me how the root of that word is Greek.
It's just like my big fat Greek wedding.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen.
A lot.
That's-
Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm saying the correct thing here, but something like 70% of the English language is Greek.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
believe
all-
it. 100, absolutely.
It's all Latin.
Most language, yeah.
Greco-Roman,
Most
Latin.
Western,
It's all
yeah.
comes from. That's
Yeah.
why
Or
words
Old
cross
English.
over.
It all,
Yeah.
everything has a root in it.
Yeah.
But
Listen, I love that movie.
that was a great movie.
I've-
I remember your mother
I'm going to
loved
make
it.
Oh, yeah, she went to see it like 4
Well,
times.
the first
in
one was
theater.
awesome. None of the other ones, just like any sequel or whatever.
Well, I never saw the other ones, but the first movie is
one was
absolutely
awesome.
hysterical.
Yeah, it was totally awesome.
I quote that. So one of my cleanup restoration and remediation guy, he was on the show a while ago. He's Greek, Otto, and I always bust his chops. You have to, because the Greeks are so proud of everyone. They will make sure that they're Greek. They all stick together, and this is. I'm not slamming you guys. This
I'm not
is
feeling-
smart. You know what I mean? That was she worked for you guys like 20 years ago or something like that.
a long time ago. Your mom's very organized. Back then we had about 30 employees. We were really, because I always prided myself. I would tell people it's like, it makes you different. I would say to people, I'm a general contractor with a crew.
Yeah.
So it's not just a paper contractor hiring a bunch of guys and having no control of them. You had your own guys.
Yeah.
And, it was definitely a great time for us. The learning curve was huge. And then, you had a big downturn in the economy. 2008 happened. And
You got hit?
Everybody got hit.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me. I had jobs that, we were starting, and people actually called me, people that had great paying jobs that were very successful in their careers, and they actually begged me for their deposits back. And I gave everybody back their deposit. I mean, I couldn't keep their money. Somebody gives you, 30,000, 80,000, to start a job. And they're like, listen, I just lost my job. It's like, I can't do the work. I'm like, I'll just send you back your deposit. Like, what are you going to do? Everybody got hit. It was a really, you're too young, Max, to remember this. But I got to be honest, it was a scary time, because like some of the biggest companies that you've ever heard of, they went,
I watched The Big Short. You ever see that movie?
Yeah. But they went completely out of business. I mean, there was an upline to Home Depot, because we were talking about Home Depot before, that was called Expo. And Expo was huge. Expo, you could buy anything you wanted. It was like, Ferguson's.
Yeah.
Times like 20. Like, you'd go in there, they would have high-end everything. Not regular Home Depot stuff. And what I found fascinating and extremely scary is immediately after, I'm talking like 2 months into like 3 months into '08.
Here, pull the mic a little bit closer.
They just
Pull the mic a little bit closer.
they
Sorry.
killed Expo, meaning Home Depot. And I'm going, what's going on?
Oh, wow.
How is this possible that, you're killing one of your flagship stores? Because let's say, I'm making this up, let's say there were 7 or 8 Expo stores, and there were like 100 or whatever, 75 Home Depots in New Jersey. They just pulled the plug, because they knew that it's only going to be small type repair, maintenance type work going on. So they catered to a high-end market. They would get incredible marble, tile, every plumbing fixture under the sun. And they had huge showrooms. I mean, you would walk in, right, and you would have like 7 or 8 bathrooms with all different types of tile, all different types of fixtures already set up. This is not what you get at your generic Home Depot, but that's how bad '08 was.
It was a scary time.
Very scary.
It was. I mean, listen, people still talk about it, the '08 crash. I feel like we're in the midst of something right now. It's just taking longer. '08 hit quick.
The guy from that movie, the guy who made all that
remember
money.
The Big Short. Michael Lewis is the author of The Big Short.
The one who
very
bet
smart
against the real estate, the housing market then, he's betting against the current economy now. He's betting against the economy now.
Well, I believe it. And
So-
I think anyone with any sense would at this point.
We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, it's a very crazy real estate market.
You
too.
survived, though.
Well, you got to be like a chameleon. I started the business from scratch by myself. So it's like, hey, I'm going to go down to just me, or just me with like my few. So like, actually, we came back stronger, because, we had your typical laying off your employees, and we basically kept the best of the best guys, and we all worked together.
How long?
Speaking
has Louis
of
been
the
on-
best of the best.
Speaking of the best of the best. Louis, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Or Pete. How long you guys been working together? This is Louis with Van Gogh Contracting. He's been with.
I've known Pete since December of 1980.
He knew me when I had
Sophomore
hair.
year.
He knew me when I had hair.
That long,
me too.
that long
Did
Did
Greek
you have hair?
I had an afro. I was like 6'4". I'm not kidding.
I have
No.
the photos for proof.
Huge afro.
Shut up. Are
I'm
you serious
5'10".
right now?
My afro has at least 4 to 6 inches off my head, man. It was huge. It's the 80s.
I don't believe that.
I had an afro, and so did
I
Louis.
had a fro.
Where'd you guys meet? I know you met in the 80s, but where?
Met at his high school, Bergenfield. Was wrestling a home match against Cliffside Park, my former school, at Bergenfield, and that's when I first met him.
Yeah.
And,
So you used to coach wrestling.
So I wasn't coaching at Clemson yet, but I was still in New Jersey.
Oh, you
and,
coached at Clemson too?
Yeah, I was assistant coach at Clemson. But before that, I was at Rutgers Newark as a senior in 1980, and I was going around, and I went to one of my school's matches, and I saw him wrestle. And
We were closer to the same weight back then. Though.
he was yeah. I've always been 140, 150 pounds. He was 141 then.
Wow.
And we started working out with it. But the funny part is when you met me, What'd you do when you first met me at that match?
Oh, that was funny. So he comes up to me. He starts calling me Pete the Greek. So I had no name in Clemson. I'm being serious. People would call me Pete the Greek, or they just call me the Greek. So like people like wave, hey Greek, you know, like I'm just like from across campus, I would wave back. I didn't know who they were, right? So because he would tell people about me going to Clemson, like I didn't even know I was going to go to Clemson, but he was in his head, he knew I was going to go there, and it was kind of funny and ironic. But I wound up, going there, and he starts poking my chest. And he's like, Pete the Greek, I'm going to make you great. I'm going to make you great. And I'm looking at him, and I'm just a kid, I'm in high school. First thing I think about is I'm going to punch him. And then he keeps going on. I'm like, I'm definitely going to punch him. And then I said, nah, maybe you're overreacting. And then, we became really great friends. I mean, I would, if my mother knew half the stuff we did, she would go crazy. I mean, I was a kid. I'd be hanging out in the back of his motorcycle. We'd be going to the New York Athletic Club. We'd be, you'd have to wear like a jacket and a tie to get in. I got to work out with some like top notch, world class wrestlers.
That's awesome.
Just as a kid. You know what
How
I mean?
long you guys
take
been
your
working
lumps.
together? Oh yeah.
But, let's see.
I'm not sure how many years we're working together, but we know
maybe 2015. I'm trying to think. I had been at several places.
we know each other like
my
over
last
40
stop,
years.
I was living up at Cornell, and I didn't want to live in New York anymore, so I came back, and we go to Clemson reunions. We go every other year. Military Day with Clemson's orange, purple and orange, and we went down together.
Yeah.
So I stayed by his house. I never been to Asbury. Nobody knows where Asbury is.
Right.
And it's in the middle of nowhere between Huntington and Warren County.
Yeah.
So I went to stay there, stay for a while, and he had to go to work and everything. So I went with him, and he's got his nice F-150, a lot of miles on it, but it works great. And he's driving, he's on the phone, he's got blueprints here. And I said, well, how about I drive, you catch up on your work. So I started driving him, which was great.
The history's great between the two of you, though. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Both wrestlers. I mean, are you Greek as well?
I'm not, I'm pure Italian. My
Greco-Roman match.
I guess so. Okay. So all right.
My parents are from this city, and right after I was born, 1 month later, we moved to Cliffside Park. And in Cliffside Park, besides having like a mayor there for 60 years, was the home of Palisade Amusement Park. So we was at Cliffside Park all my life, and so it's an all Italian town. So everybody ended in a vowel. So
Of course.
the story I tell people is back then in high school, the weight classes, there were 12 weight classes. Cliffside Park had 11 Italians, and Franny McCoy was Irish Italian. So
okay.
that's
I
how
got
it was.
you.
And the mayor was there. Calabrese, Jerry Calabrese was there for almost 60 years. Now his son Tommy is the mayor. He's a year older than me. So we've had a Calabrese there for 7 decades now.
So you're making fun of Greeks. Italians are worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, I know. We're part of time. You got quite the coaching career for wrestling.
So I had
behind you, huh?
my athletic director, Cliffside Park, Frank Temmie, was the old wrestling coach in the 60s. And when he was the AD, I would go into his office. I couldn't eat lunch, so I sit in his office. So he gave me some wrestling books. So I see this guy named Wade Chalice. I was reading about this guy. He was a cocky son of a bitch, but he was good. So I'm right up about him. Sure enough, he gets the coaching job at Clemson. So I go to Wade Chalice. I call him up out of the blue, and I said, listen, I have a kid that took 4th in junior nationals. I'd like to come down. He's a smart kid. He goes down. He gets a scholarship. I go down with a package deal, and I'm a volunteer. Then he puts me on staff. I bring him down there. He's going to go to Columbia. He's going to be an Ivy League kid. I convinced him to come down to Clemson.
Okay.
So we all went down to South Carolina, and at the time in the 80s, they were still fighting the Civil War. So I bring all these Yankees down there, and we would go to a bar, and they'd pick on these guys. Well, they would beat the crap out of them. So South Carolina was great.
Yeah.
When you ref, you go down, and the state trooper's there. He walks you in, he walks you out. That was back then. Now it's crazy now. Now you need really protection because the fans are nuts now.
Yeah, they go
Yeah.
nuts.
Fans are nuts, and we don't have enough for refs. So I literally ref every single day. I do rec,
Wow.
I do middle school, I do high school, I do weekend tournaments.
That's
So I'm
amazing.
busy.
I mean,
So I got
you're
hooked on it.
dedicated.
He knows
Yeah.
though so many. He's actually Louis coached or trained. Several national champs, multi-state title winners in New Jersey. And the funny part about Louis is he would always take, the jobs that nobody wants to do. A lot of refs have egos, so they want to do the
Right.
state finals. Louis is like, just give me the JV guys, give me the Pee-wees. So
Humble.
what happens is
Yeah.
all these
Humility.
guys that come through the ranks that actually wind up becoming world-class wrestlers, somewhere, somehow in New Jersey, they're like, hey, that's Screwy Louis, he's the ref. They know him.
Screwy
They're
Louis, they know
7,
you.
8, 10 years old, but he's been in it for decades. So that's why Louis is such a mainstay for New Jersey wrestling.
Yeah.
If you guys were to throw down right now, who do you think would come out on top?
Oh no. Oh,
No.
no. We already threw down around Christmas time. It wasn't good.
Did you?
Oh, it wasn't good. I would.
I was gonna say like on the job when the job gets stressful, you just want to like pummel somebody. I would just let's fucking get it out right now. Excuse me. Sorry for that. I got a sense for that. Just get out on the job site and toss each other around.
No, we tried to behave ourselves on the
Listen,
site because
that
we're
was-
always somewhere.
That was a long time ago, but it's you know what,
Definitely lived
it was
a
a
hell
lot
of a
fun.
life, though.
Work
At the
out.
time, I saw him beat a Division I national champ. I was in his corner. I was like 16 years old, and my mentor just beat a national champ. That's
Kenny
not it.
Mallory,
Yeah.
First Division III guy to win D1.
It was very impressive.
yeah, he
I was
was in the
very
corner
I was
for
very proud of him. And then at one point, I think Louis wound up. He took third in the world in sambo.
What?
So I got involved in sambo a little bit, not too much, but I got involved with it.
Was
But
it just a form of wrestling?
yeah, it's
Sambo is like the national sport of Russia, like back in the 80s. It's a combination of like wrestling and judo.
Yeah, you wear a
with
judo
submission.
jacket, you do wrestling
What was
moves.
that movie that came out back then? It was about. It had a big. I can't remember. Oh man, it was like some obscure movie
About wrestling?
about sambo.
About sambo.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember. Whatever. I something came in. I remember hearing about that back then.
Who's the most famous person you ever worked with? Wrestling
well,
field.
it would be Damien Hahn. Damien Hahn wrestled for Lakewood High School. He was a schoolboy champ, and all of a sudden, he was beating people in high school. He was beating college guys when he was in high school. So he's a 4-time finalist, a 3-time champ, and he graduated in '99. He was so USA Wrestling puts out a thing. The number one guy, they do a team, and then they pick the number one guy. They picked him. Went to Minnesota, placed 4 times, fifth, and first. So he's a 2-time champ. So he wrestled an undefeated guy named Cale Sanderson, and he beat him in freestyle. He was a junior in high school. Sanderson was already in college. So he was the claim to fame. So sure enough, he after he won, he took second on the Olympic team in '08. He lost in the finals to Daniel Cormier, who's
Yeah.
all right. That's who he
Yeah.
lost to. He now is the head coach of South Dakota State. He's in Brookings, South Dakota. People think it's in the middle of nowhere. I go there every year to do summer camp with him.
Oh, South
He rides his
Dakota's
motorcycle.
South Dakota. Yes, I actually.
you
I
don't.
no, I didn't. I drove my car. I have an old
my
2002 Pontiac Grand
That's a
Prix.
crazy ride on a
I
bike.
would. Oh, I drove my bike.
But he would do it.
The
It
bike
would
ride
be-
was back in the day was Jersey to Clemson, Oklahoma, and then the next time I went to Vegas.
On
And
a bike?
Colorado, on Colorado,
On a bike?
on a bike, but it was in the summer.
I would love that though. To be honest, like, listen, you're
It's
hurting,
liberating.
You're hurting, but there's nothing like that. Especially just taking a long trip. What do you still ride?
Well, no, I don't. And remember, this is the '80s, so it wasn't like we had phones and everything. I had a Rand McNally map, and I went when I got to
Good point.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
said, "Oh
Great
my
point.
God, I'm going to Colorado Springs. That's where the Olympic training camp is." I'm like, I got to go here. I'll make it to like that. The top hat of the state of Texas. I had to go to Dumas, and Dalhart, and I had to plan it out. In the nowhere.
'Cause you're gonna
I'm
run out of
talking, There
gas.
was no people,
Yeah.
no animals, no nothing.
You're screwed if you
No
I would-
phone, no
And I had to
gas.
figure it out. I went, and there what it was. There was the town, a little bit of town, found the gas station, and I kept on going. I made it to the bottom of Colorado, and then I worked now there was civilization. It was what? Route 35, 15.
Yeah, there's
wherever
no-
it is.
There's nothing like that though. Just
And
getting out
it was
there.
good. It was good. I had the bike. I ended up selling it, getting rid of it, and got a regular car. But I was at that time. I said I like the bikes, and I did it for a while.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I want to ask you. I mean, you guys been together. You said 2015 when you guys got together, right?
Yeah, I
You
came
started
back.
working-
I
back
just
to
saw
Jersey.
him.
And you started this 24, so this is pretty much this is pretty much all you've known. What were you? I'm sure you had a part-time job in college or something, but dude, I didn't start this until my late 30s.
Well, I joke. I tell people I was born
You were
to be
born
a
into it,
contractor.
yeah.
You know, I just started.
It's in your blood.
working as a kid. It's in my blood. Even when I worked briefly, for a financial service company, I was into the sales aspect. Like I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed working with something that was either broken down, you had to repair and rebuild, or building something brand new that's like totally beautiful that people are going to inhabit that space for
Right.
years to come and enjoy that. And some of the stuff that you built, could be around for few hundred years. So that gave you a different type of satisfaction than just like the adrenaline rush of like making a sale. You realize like, when you do what we do,
It is an adrenaline.
it's
rush,
an adrenaline rush to actually do the job. And I was revert back to wrestling because, wrestling's a very tough sport. And what happens is nobody gives you an award or gives you anything. You have to earn everything.
Right.
You have to constantly prove that you're the best. Somebody could take your spot. You could win some great tournament, and the next day you go lose to somebody you should have never lost to because it's such a mental sport. But it's the same thing in contracting, whereas you're competing with a whole bunch of bidders. And now it's like you just got like a $2 million job. You just got a $300,000 job. But guess what? You didn't make any money. You actually have to now, you qualified for the tournament. You qualified to do the work. So now you have to pool all your resources. You got to get all your employees, your subcontractors in order. And you got to have a game plan, which is basically really good architectural plans, hopefully.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are lacking within those pages that, you guys know firsthand.
Yep.
And you got to produce a great product for a customer. So that's where you get that challenge, which, it's kind of like wrestling, but it's in a different format.
Yep.
But it makes you very happy to produce something that people will appreciate, reside in that part of their home or their entire home if you build it, and they're going to enjoy it for maybe generations to come.
So that's a huge selling point, because I was going to ask you next, like, what would you say to younger guys who are flailing, not knowing what to do? Everyone's encouraged to go to college. College is not for everyone. There's people going there when they shouldn't be there, and they should be getting into something like this. I mean, what would you, if guys are coming up and they want to be their own boss, they want to do something with entrepreneurship, get into contracting, what's your advice?
Never shortchange the trades. I was serious before when I said, you could get multiple degrees and it becomes a conversation piece for a party. Because
Or to get dates.
Yeah, or
I
whatever
know
people
what you really mean.
whatever people use their education for. And education is a really good foundation block for being able to converse with people on a different level. But the reality is you have to provide some type of service, no matter what industry you're in, and you have to make a living.
Yeah.
So the trades are a huge necessity of our economy. And if people don't engage in the trades, like anything from repair work to, at the other end of the spectrum, building a house or putting up a commercial building or whatever it is that you do, or even, a skyscraper in Manhattan, people are going to either work out of those offices, they're going to, live in them, live in a building or whatever they're going to live in. You need people to maintain and service everything. So no matter what industry you're in, there's less and less people that are willing to take that challenge and that responsibility that goes with saying, I can do it. We're the I can do it guys. There's very few people like us. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I want young people that are out there to put it in their heads that there's nothing that you can't do if you're willing to try. And there's a great career out there waiting for you. All you have to do is, like we said before, is just show up. Yeah. Most people don't know how to show up. Yeah. You show up, great things will happen to you in life. You got to get up early. You go through the motions. Nobody's Superman. Nobody goes, I can't wait to go to work. Or, maybe some days you do. Other days you're barely getting out of bed, whether you got hurt or you don't feel right or you didn't sleep all night because we're worrying about all our other jobs that we have going on. And
keep having leaking nightmares.
Leaking nightmares, exactly. When you get older, you might have real leaking nightmares. But the long and the short of it is, to the youth, just show up, take the challenge, and great things will happen to you because people need your service, and less people are doing it. And if you're smart enough to get into it now, you will reap tremendous rewards down the road because there's basically going to be almost no competition for doing that kind of work.
Yeah. You grew up an athlete, all right? You grew up I got two cousins in the family. They're about 14, 15 years old right now, and they're both athletes. But they have grand dreams. You guys know who I'm talking. You guys know who I'm talking to. You, Mason, Nikki. They have grand dreams of the big football career, playing for the Giants.
Of course, that's healthy.
How do you? Okay, that is healthy, but how in a healthy way do you squash that dream and be like, tell him you're gonna have to just be a plumber?
You know what? I would never squash anyone's dream. I would tell
I'm just
them,
kidding.
no, I'm being serious. I would tell them to pursue their dream. Listen, Louis and I can recite scenarios to you guys that would blow you away. There are guys that were not even good wrestlers in high school that became Olympic caliber athletes or actually, placed in the Olympics that took up wrestling in their late teens or early 20s. So, you don't squash people's dreams. You let them follow them, and the cards are gonna lay where they're gonna lay. Down the road, people will find their path. You as long as you have a great attitude, it's all about your attitude.
Yep.
If you have a great attitude in life and in a pursuit of excellence for your sport or your business, or you wanna take whatever you learned on the gridiron or in a basketball court or in a wrestling mat, because you're trying to be the best that you can be. You also have your pride. You're trying to be the best that you can be in the construction industry.
Yeah.
It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, and you don't do it for the money, because there's a lot of easier ways you can make money. You do it because you love it. You got to have passion for what you do. Otherwise, people see right through it, and they don't care about it. You know? And
you got callbacks for days if you don't care about it. You're just throwing stuff together for us. Service work.
Oh yeah.
If you don't care about it, there's you have to get in there and be like, listen, I'm gonna make something work today. I'm gonna build a career. I'm in it for the long term. And a lot of people, when they sit on that couch, they advise people, don't necessarily go to college, but if you are, take a business class. Learn the business aspect of it.
Let me tell you something. The only way you will ever learn anything about business is being in business.
Yeah.
All this theoretical stuff is great. College was great. You know what college does? It gives you a right to do things. Like, for instance, it's like you ran a marathon. That means that, you're some guy that's like dedicated. You got a college degree. It means that you're willing to do the work.
Yeah.
What you actually learn in college, I got to be honest with you, not very much at all. And it's quite sad that college is not geared for the professional person. Period. Case closed. Teach you how to save money, how to earn money, the power of interest, all these different things, being organized. They just teach you a lot of hypothetical, philosophical nonsense.
Yep.
You're better off actually studying real philosophy and getting something out of it than all these like theoretical. I always loved Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. Do you remember? Did you ever see that? No. You guys are too young.
Maybe.
You got to see that. It's a classic. He's taken a course. Basically, he's filthy rich. And I think his nephew is in college. So he wants to go to college too. So he's like, let's say 55 years old and he's a freshman. So this guy's going off in economics class, and he's teaching kids about business and about putting up a building. And then, Rodney Dangerfield pops up. He's like, yeah, but wait, don't forget, you're going to have to grease the elevator guy so that he can let all your employees up, and you got to do this. And he's like, we don't run that kind of operation in this class. He's like, what kind of operation do you run? He's like, well, we're making widgets. He goes, well, widgets, what kind of product is a widget? He goes, and then all the kids turn around and they're all taking notes because it was so real. The difference, the dichotomy between the real world and an academic world. It's a shame that there's such a huge disconnect. You're spending all this money to be trained to actually be a more efficient person, and maybe having the economic freedom to be truly who you want to be, whether now you want to really just read books and enjoy it because you made money. They don't teach you any of that. They'll go take $200,000-$300,000 unless you have you're studying real career-oriented scenarios. Like, for instance, if you're into biochemistry, you're going to be a doctor, an architect, possibly a lawyer, an accountant. 95% of all the other fields, they're just got a vacuum cleaner sucking out parents' money.
It's true.
And nobody's getting anything out of it. It's really sad.
I'm glad you said it.
Oh, it's totally true.
And it is sad because tuition's only going up, and it's bankrupting kids for the next 50 years of their life.
I think it's usury, and it should be illegal.
There you go.
Like I said to you, I could have made enough money easily to pay for my college.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to make a year's worth of college tuition in 3 months in the summer, where they're off for either, in between high school and college, or then all through college. It's sad. It's out of control.
Yep.
It is.
You're better
is.
off giving your kid a freaking down payment of $300,000
I know.
to buy a house
To
cash,
invest in real estate.
or whatever, or invest in real estate, than you are sending him off to school. If he doesn't want to be in a specific chosen field where you're building up, to go to another level and then another level to better yourself in that chosen field.
Yeah.
It's sad. Most kids don't even know what they want to do.
I know.
So that's why
And they're forced to pick something so early.
Of course.
Like
I didn't, like I said, I didn't really, when I really realized what I wanted to do, it was kind of comical. From 28 to 30, I said to myself, okay, I never had writing on my trucks or anything. So I said to myself, okay, let me put some letters on these trucks. Business actually took off even without anything. And I said, let me see where this is going to be. Cause I'm only 28 and I'm going to be 30. No big deal. Business exploded. And I stayed in it. But I had to go get 2 degrees, be in business for 4 years, and then decide this is what I want to do. Nobody knows what they want to do. Unless they're really one of those special type of kids, they want to be a doctor or whatnot, that know from the beginning. It's very hard. And I think you have, I would say that 90% of college tuition is wasted for it's fodder for the universities to just, get bigger bank accounts and, abuse more incoming freshmen with nonsense.
Yeah. It's a shame.
It's a total shame. So I'm pushing the trades.
So are we. That's why we do this.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I had you on here. That's why I get successful guys in the trades on here to talk about their experience, realize that there's a ton of different personalities in the trades.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have to be one specific guy. But if you can even not so much lean toward being mechanically inclined, but if you're good at business or branding or something, you can still make there's a lot of plumbers out there. They're not great plumbers, but they're very successful because they know their numbers, they market well.
Absolutely.
They know the market.
But at the end of the day, they're producing good results.
Well, because now they get guys like Louis over here to actually get out there and do the work. And
They get
just
guys
slap
like
their
Louis
face
to
on it.
just show up.
Show up
They
and
just
just
show
show
up.
up.
Just show up. That's the biggest part of it.
Exactly.
His guy Dave, he graduated from Columbia University in 1970.
Masters,
I know. That's
architecture.
very
He's
smart, that guy.
Brilliant.
Every time we're on a job with you, he'll talk my ear off and just tell me about stuff that I have no clue what he's talking about.
Music,
Well,
everything
listen.
else.
No, but he's very smart, and he's very, very. He's a real guy. He's one of my best friends. We don't hang out. Like I don't hang out with my guys because we see each other. 40 to 60 hours a week, depending if we're working
fair.
overtime or whatever. But in reality,
It's like a second marriage when
Yeah,
it
you
comes
go
down
through
to it.
most of your life hanging out with your guys, which is great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pete, man, thanks for coming on.
Hey, it was an
Yeah,
honor to
thank
be
you
here. You
very
guys do a
much.
great job.
I appreciate you coming
Thank
on, talking about the contracting business, the experience. Thanks for bringing Louis.
Louis was the best.
Yep.
But all right, so plug your business one more time. Van Gogh
General Contracting.
The art of renovation.
What's the website? VanGo.com.
It's van-gogc.com.
VAN-GO-GC.com.
GoGC.com.
And I'll put it on the bottom of the screen too.
Awesome.
But all right, folks. Thanks for joining us again on this episode of Plum Bums Podcast, the Every Night Podcast. Listen, please like, share, subscribe, get the name out there. We appreciate the viewership, but seriously, share it with everybody. You know what? Even if you don't watch, just subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of good guests coming up. So stay tuned till next week, and we'll see you then.